Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including four-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a four-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
Three-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a three-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare two laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Live from iRacing's virtual Hungaroring, welcome sim racing fans to the second round of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship live on Apex Racing TV. We're happy that you're joining us on this Friday afternoon or evening, wherever you're tuning in around the world, to iRacing's newest road circuit on the sim. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Andy Thompson, with Samuli Kumo down in the virtual production trailer. And Andy, this is all question marks coming into this race because we have only seen this circuit in the last 2 or so weeks on the iRacing service. This is really the first time these drivers are going to take to this track for a race in these Porsches, and they're new Porsches at that. Both the car and the track are only about 2 weeks old in the service. This is going to be an interesting race to see who can tame it the quickest.
Yeah, definitely. It's been an interesting watching the practice, watching how the guys have been going around the track, and he seems to be getting hold of the track really well. The track flows really well out on track. You've got some really nice corners, but you've got some corners that actually invite the drivers to over push it a little bit. So I'm sort of expecting to see quite a few cars spinning, and if they spin it in certain places on the track, such as where they're coming up to now, turn 6 and 7, the tight hairpin, it's going to cause absolute carnage throughout the field. But you know, really looking forward to tonight, and it's going to be the first showing on Apex Racing TV of the Hungaroring. So really looking forward to it, Joshua.
And great to see this track in the sim. It has been a really great track to see in the Formula 1 calendar, as well as the FIA Porsche Cup calendar a few times as well. So awesome to see it now here in the sim. And as we get started, open qualifying, a bit unique than the other series you'll see here on Apex Racing TV. These drivers are taking to the track now for a 10-minute open qualifying session. 2 minutes of that down as we see a couple of drivers going off track to get the best launch onto this straightaway possible, and almost taking out that DRS sign. One car is going to go right through the DRS sign there at the exit of the final corner, turn 14, but then they roar down the front straightaway, downhill braking zone into the tricky first corner, very tight, and opens up on exit right onto the rumble strip. Got to make sure you don't spin those tires on the exit of turn number 1. You could end up getting yourself spun around, and these corners also very tricky here in sector 1, corner 2. You can see off camber, really difficult for these drivers to hit that apex, get it correct, and you can see just how loose Luke McCowan is for Logitech Esports as he goes up the hill. Fast left-hander, only braking a little bit, down a gear or 2, and then right back onto the gas as he goes into the middle portion of the calendar.
Yeah, coming around turn 5, got to keep that apex tight and then keep yourself on the left-hand side for turns 6 and 7 as you can. You see the drivers taking the inside curve to get the open line for the outside. The next corner, turn number 8, is a slow corner. You need to make yourself on the left-hand side of the track to open up turn number 9 so you can get the maximum speed out of here. Coming down on a left-hander turn, you know, flat out, brake hard, come down into a right-hander turn coming around turn 9 and 10. So really fast second sector coming into the third sector on the Hungaroring.
Racing through the corner, and you can see still on board with Luke McCowan through turn 13, eager to get back onto the gas, and he is able to on the exit of that corner. Back through final corner, turn 14, get on the gas as late as possible, and let's see what this time will be. First driver coming across the line to put in a time, and it's going to be a 1:45.75. It's going to be a quick one. His teammate Bo Albert, and the current points leader, down in P4 by about half a second, so time needing to be made up by Bo Albert. And now more times coming in. Martin Spolak puts up the first time for the AM class, and he goes 1:48.541. More times trickling on in, and Bo Albert's going to reset. We'll see if he goes out for another run in the Logitech Esports number 143. But right now, top 9 is all pro drivers. One car going to outbrake themselves into turn number 1. So we get a good look at Ross Dunstane for ARA Racing, trying to lay down another lap here. He currently is the fastest of the AM drivers, P10, still about 2 seconds off the pace of the leaders of the pro class.
Yeah, so the fastest one in the practice session was Luke McCowan, and he done a 1:45.6, so only 1/10 off his fastest time at the moment in practice, but probably wasn't at full qualifying setup with these cars. So I'd expect it to go a little bit quicker, maybe into the 1:45.5s, 1:45.4s would be the ideal qualifying time. But as you said, about halfway through now into the qualifying, 5 minutes gone, and our top 10 at the moment is McCowan, Shorter, Christensen, Albert's back up to 4th, Kessler in 5th, Mopes, Harris, Pollard, and Parker in the top arm at the moment, still standing in 10th place. So all the times are a little bit stretched out. So the top 7 are within a second of each other, and then they start getting over a second. But I think that's the thing about this track, Joshua, is it's a brand new track, brand new car. So the guys are actually still trying to learn the track, although they've had sort of 2-hour practice before the start of this open qualifying that we're watching now, to try and hone their lap skills. But as you know, it takes many months to hone the track skills on these tracks to get the real quick times. But at the moment, some decent times coming in as we watch Lippy there, obviously slipping and going back to the pit. So the 2:73 in the qualifier for Lippy. Obviously not getting his best lap in there, and coming out so should have enough time to come out on an out lap to get another lap done, as we watch currently on board with Luke McCowan, who's currently our pole sitter.
Currently sits on that pole position by about a 10th as well, so he has a good amount of time over Chris Shorter, and you can see him going to the outside and then cut right back to the inside, get the best angle going onto this front straightaway as possible to begin this lap. And racing down into the first corner. Remember, these are the new Porsche 992 GT3 cars. These are not the old 911s, as you see a line forming up in the exit of the pit lane, and Luke McGowan trying to put down a faster lap, ends up locking up that front tire. He's going to keep it running down the straightaway. He'll go into turn number 2 now. Let's see if he can improve on that lead lap time that he currently has. 1:45.75 is his time to beat, as he goes a little far off track there. Still learning where those off-track limits can be on this course. And for these Porsches, that's pretty important, Andy. They need to know how far they can really take these cars off track, because of course, if you get hit with an off-track penalty, that is a 1x, which is going to disallow your qualifying time. It could also lead to slowdowns during the race. So knowing exactly how far you can push these cars is important. But with a new circuit like this, they might not know all the places on the track where they can do that.
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, it's only 16 till you get a drive-through, and then it's every 8 after that. And with the format of tonight's races, we've got 2 heat races of 12 minutes, where the top 8 will go through to the feature race. And then after that, we have a consolation or a B final, where the top 6 will go through to the feature race. So, you know, you need to make sure that you keep it nice and smooth on this track, not pick up them 1Xs, which, speaking to a few of the drivers, it's quite easy to do around this track. So, you know, you can ill afford, in the short time that you got, only 12 minutes, to get up into that top 8 positions to be able to progress through to the feature race. And as we saw last week, you know, it's important to get into that feature races, because that's where all the points are for the championship.
Just a couple more minutes remaining in qualifying. Once we close out of the qualifying session, we will have our first heat race of the day. Top 8 will advance from heat number 1, a 12-minute heat. Same thing with heat number 2, also 12 minutes, also 8 drivers advancing. We go into a 12-minute consolation race, the last chance qualifier after that, where it'll be an undetermined amount of drivers going to the feature. We'll have to wait until that consolation begins to see just exactly how much we're going to have, as we see the 112 go off track, slam into the guardrail, and we'll have a 3-minute warm-up after the consolation, then the 15-minute feature race at the end of the day. So a ton of racing action that is coming up here, as we see Emil Vimbo come across the line for Cairo's competition. Currently sits P11 overall, P11 for the pro class of drivers, and last lap time 1:46.62. He improves slightly, but not going to improve on the track position at the moment. Still stays behind Scott Mokes, who currently sits P10. Thiago Vivacqua right there in P15 for P1 Speed Racing Team, coming through the final couple of corners. Let's see if he can improve. A 1:47.03 he currently has up on the timing sheet. Coming through the final corner, turn 14, trying to get on that gas as early as possible. Goes off the racetrack, and let's see if it'll be enough. Yes, it will be. What an improvement. Up into P5 for Vivacqua. Jumps 10 spots with a 1:46.239. An incredible final lap time in qualifying for the Brazilian. He is going to start in P5 if nobody else has anything to say about it. And it looks like checkered flag comes out. Everybody is done with qualifying. We will now take these 38 drivers, put them into 2 heats of 19, and go racing for the first time here tonight. Luke McGowan, best of the rest in qualifying. He's going to start on the pole. Roger Christensen, one of the pro-level drivers in this field. By pro-level, I mean pro iRacing license. He competes in the Porsche Cup. He starts in P2. Thiago Vivacqua starts P3 with Bo Albert, Logitech G-Ultra Esports teammate of Luke McGowan in P4. Damian Harris rounds out that top 5. Scott Mokes, Thiago Martel in P7. Mikey Pollard, P8. Darren Fell, Marcel Fritsch rounding out your top 10. Rostenstein with Arajas Jomontes rounding out your top 12 and rounding out your field here in heat number 1. Dennis Meisner, Craig Jones, Cesar Cabral rounding out your top 15 with Oliver Holtke, Lewis Ward, Jesse Halaho, and Aaron Smith. Your 19 drivers ready to take the green here from the Hungaroring. First heat of the day, and Andy, this is going to set the pace for the rest of the day. We saw it at the Charlotte Roval. Heat number 1 had a lot of interesting battles throughout the midfield, and we saw it throughout the remainder of that race as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we got some really big hitters in this round. So we've got Luke McCowan, Roger Christensen, who's currently leading the Pro Championship, and Bo Albert, who's obviously the second place. So some really big hitters in this race. So the front of the field will be very interesting to watch in this first heat.
Let's see how this is going to develop as the drivers take to the grid. There's the last one, Roger Christensen for Fox Gaming. Top 8 will advance into the feature race tonight. 19 drivers lining up on that grid, getting ready to go. A standing start as they'll all race down into turn number 1. Let's hope it's not the same fate as the Formula 1 event here earlier this year, but we are underway for heat number 1. It's a great start for Luke McCowan. Christensen's gonna fall into line as Bo Albert gonna try and keep to the inside. The Brazilian trying to cut him off. A little bit of a door slam for P3 as they all go into turn number 1. Round the outside, Roger Christensen trying to take that lead away. Not gonna work. Albert's gonna keep P3. Vivaquan falls to P4, and as they go into turn number 2 now, staying single file, Vivaquan dives to the inside for P3, trying to get it. Maybe some more door slamming as they go through turn 2.
Yeah, definitely a great start there from McCowan, getting away from Christian slightly. So consolidating that first place position coming off the line, and Christensen battling him out. But Vivaquan's obviously got the beating of this track at the moment, and there's pushing on and putting a lot of pressure on the guys in front of him. Probably out hitting where we would normally see him, but certainly managing to get this track. But Martinu in 7th place is currently at the top hands. As you see, Dennis Mizo coming a victim, the first victim of turn 5, which is a treacherous corner if you obviously get that wrong. And obviously on this first lap, you got cold tyres, so you need to be really aware of that. So like we said, the top 8 positions of this race go through straight away to the feature race later on. And the rest of the field will go into, as we see a big spin there, and it's Vivaquan into a terrible turn going in. So that is going to put paid to his race after a great start. He's obviously looking like he's going to have to go back to the pits.
Stuck in the middle of the racetrack. Didn't look like he had anywhere to go. Let's see the replay here. P1 Speed Racing Team, he got just a little bit too much on that curve. Gets spun around one more time, and then drifting a little bit down as the drivers are trying to avoid that incident. Contact with 2 cars and went flipping up and over onto his lid. Ended up back on all 4 Michelin tires, but he will be limping it around to the pit lane as we see Marcel Fritsch also coming into the pit lane. Looks like he might have got a bit of damage from that incident, so he comes into the pit lane. Darren Fell looked like he might have gotten some damage as well, as he's going to dive up the inside of Aaron Smith. He was another one of those drivers who might have gotten some damage from that incident. They go side by side. Fell, a driver for the pro class. Craig Jones to his inside, Aaron Smith to his inside. They door slam. One for the AM class on the inside line. Now the 132 gets moved out of the way, and he's going to fall one more spot to Craig Jones in the 288 as he tries to go around side by side with SCCR Sim Sports and BTW Racing.
Yeah, Feld obviously getting in the wrong position for that fast left-right corner there, and as we saw, he fell down a couple more places to Jones and Pollard, so falling a little bit further back, and now he's got Oliver Hockey on his tail, the AM in 15th place. But like we said last week, you know, this is a real good opportunity for the AMs to try and get that position into the feature race, being in the top 8, and at the moment, Martin, who seems to do an exceptional job in 6th place, top of the AMs at the moment. We got Disdain just off from Lewis Ward in 8th place on the tail of him. So, you know, 2 possible opportunities for amateurs to get straight into the feature race. And as we've, you know, seen in the points as well in the AMs, if you get an amateur and get in that feature race, that's where you're actually going to be getting them big points and making a big lead on the amateur championships.
On board with Bo Albert, it looks like these front drivers have sort of stabled out now as we see a whole host of drivers gaining spots from the start of this race, both overall and in their classes. Albert goes into turn number 1, a hard right-hander back onto the power, and we'll see if he tries to go for a move on Roger Christensen. It is just it's a little bit interesting to watch these battles develop here, Andy, because they're really racing for grid spots now. At the front of this field, if you're in the top 8, you're racing for grid spots. Maybe if you're 7th or 8th, you're trying to gain more spots to just sort of get away from that cut line. But if you're Bo Albert right now, if you're Roger Christensen, Luke McCowan, you're trying to hold on or go forward when it comes to just where you're going to start in the feature, because it's not super important, but we can definitely see these drivers just sort of relaxing, staying in that draft bubble. You don't want to get that gap too far, because then you're going to be out of luck when it comes to trying to make a pass late if you want to make a pass, because you won't be close enough to that car, as we see Cabral and Dunstan go side by side.
Yeah, it's definitely the top 3 at the moment seem to be pulling away from the rest of the field. So Harris is about 1.2 seconds behind Albert. But exactly like you say, the top 3 will be now fighting over where they're going to start on the grid. And I think for this round, it's really going to be important, because that run out from the start-finish down to turn 1 is vital. You know, you need to be getting out there into your clear space so you can take the line as you want, because it can compromise. You can get compromised quite heavily on that first turn in going in. As currently watching Aaron Smith in a battle with Pollard and Jones at the moment. So the 277 of Ross Johnson at the lead of the groups, with Aaron Smith just behind him, with Mikey Pollard behind him. So a big gaggle of cars here for a 10th, from 10th all the way down to about 14th, 15th. So a big myriad of cars following each other. It's quite vitally important for these heat rounds for the amateurs, because this is probably where their race is. So they need to make sure that they try and get as far up in this heat as they can to maximise their points, because they'll probably only get a handful of them like we saw last week. We only got 4 of them going through to the feature round, so only a small handful will, as we watched Darren Fell there make an excellent move on Pollard, Mikey Pollard in front of him in the 173 car.
About halfway done now, just a little bit over that here in heat number 1. So you can say roughly about 4 to 5 laps still remaining, which still leaves a good amount of time for these drivers, if they're outside of that cut line, to try and get above P8, as we see Ross Dunstan trying to hold off the number 216 of Aaron Smith behind him. We saw at the Charlotte Roval, we only had 1 driver in the AM class from both of our heats advance. Right now, we still only have 1 of them in there. As look at the pass coming out from Aaron Smith. That green-colored 216 for Zem Racing, moving up 1 more spot into P10. As now Ross Dunstan is going to try and fight from P11. You're on board with the nose of Mikey Pollard in the 173, working his way through these fast corners and the back portion of the Hungaroring. Through turn 11 they go, down the straightaway. They'll go into the hard left-hander of turn 12. And Pollard trying to hold off Darren Fell. Craig Jones behind him, as it is no fight on the transfer spot right now. Joe Montes still holding on to that spot, with Cesar Cabral trying to catch up. Take a look at Aaron Smith, went a little bit too far up the road, and here comes Mikey Pollard to try and get that spot back.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the lines in the last corner, as we saw Aaron Smith there going quite wide to try and get the fast exit coming down to this straight, and the rest of the field keeping it nice and tight, as we see Rosland trying to dive down the inside of Smith, but unfortunately too far back to make the move stick at the moment. But Aaron Smith will be knowing that Dunstan's right behind him, as then Dunstan's got Pollard, Fell and Jones behind him. So just a big procession of cars at the moment, all the way from 10th down to probably about 17th at the moment, just following each other, trying to get them last little few positions at the back of the grid. And like we said, the top 8 will go through, the rest of them will go through to the Consolation B final, where only the top 6 of that one will get through. So they do have a second chance saloon to try and get through to that A-class final, but they're still probably trying to learn these tracks, and the best place to overtake the cars out on the track at the moment.
And they go through that chicane there, and it's a long draft line in the back, and this is definitely not going to help them reach up to 8th place, as it gets difficult to make those passes happen. And something we haven't talked about this racetrack yet, Andy, is it is really thin. There is not a ton of real estate when it comes to this track. So if you make a diving move to the inside, like we see the 132 making here, a brave one, but cannot get there, trying to get by the 173 of Mikey Pollard. But it's very thin. So if you make a move down to the inside of the racetrack, you could end up making contact, as we see happening here. Oliver Holtke gets turned around in the 242. Not sure who he made contact with. I believe it was the 213. Yes, it was Dennis Meisner for Wraith Energy Racing making that contact. But the front straightaway is the widest portion of track on this racing circuit, so if you're going to make a move anywhere, it's turn number 1 where you have the most real estate to make it. Doesn't make it as much of a brash move.
Yeah, definitely. There seems, although the track looks quite wide, there's really only one racing line that goes around this circuit. So if you're going to make a pass and try to get, as we see Aaron Smith, unfortunately, who was heading up that big line, a procession of cars from 10th all the way down to 17th, has a little bit of an incident there and has managed to get himself down to 16th place. But like we were saying, there's one real racing line, the fast racing line around this track. So if you're going to make a move on this track, come off that racing line, you've got to make it stick. As our world famous Danny Lee said, who's actually in the YouTube channel, he says, you know, you only make a pass on the corner if you know you're going to make it stick, because I think this track pays exactly right to what he's saying there, because if you get off the line, you lose so much speed and you could lose 2 or 3 places by trying to make an overtake.
Already inside of 2 minutes left. We're going to go to about a minute and a half here. And coming across the line, Luke McCowan. Lap time's about 1:46, so this time by, McCowan will take that white flag. It'll be 1 lap to go here in heat number 1, as we have a minute 19:18 continuing to count down. White flag goes up and into the air. And Roger Christensen sitting in P2 right now. Doesn't look like he will have enough time to catch up to Luke McCowan at the front of the field. Logitech G Altus Esports number 122, looking for a walkaway victory here in the heat. Battle for P5, a little bit further back. Scott Mokes with Thiago Martel for Team Shazoo. Team Mokes in the number 110 machine. And Martel is the only AM driver currently in the top 8. We are seeing this trend in the heats where a good AM driver can get up into that top 8 and make it happen, and everybody else, even though we didn't have too many AM drivers in this Heat 1 field, Andy, still, there's a lot of them going to have to fight out of the Consolation race tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the race normally for the amateurs, the Consolation. But then you do get a lot of the pros. And, you know, what is good to see is Luke McCowan out the front had a pretty terrible Charlotte Roval. Showed his pace in the practice and in the qualifying, but had disastrous starts off both races that he had and pretty much paid to it. So it's good to see him out the front showing the pace that he can do. But, you know, you get them incidents where somebody, a fast driver, a pro, doesn't quite hit it, as we saw Vivica at the start of the race. You know, an exceptional opening lap to get himself up there, and has one incident that's down in 19th place. So you're going to have some really fast drivers in the Consolation. So you're probably looking at 1 or 2 places in the Consolation for the amateur trying to get into that feature race. As we watch here, Luke McCowan driving, you know, amazingly 1.9 seconds ahead of Roger Christensen, our current leader, to take this first heat victory. So a great victory off the back end of a pretty terrible round for Charlotte from McCone. So great win there with Christian in second. Albert manages to stick third. So pretty much 1, 2, 3 stayed where they were at the start of the race, with Harris in 4th, Mokes in 5th, Martinu at the top of the AM managing to get 6th and straight through to that feature race as we talked about earlier. Lewis Ward in 7th, and Jamantis manages to get the last of the automatic qualifying places.
Great job holding on to that top 8 spot for Jomontes. Cabral, Pollard fell, all falling just a little bit too short. And Dunstan, Jones, Meisner, Smith, and Holtke are all going to be moving into the Consolation from the AM class, as well as Vivaqua, Fritsch, and Hialaho as well for the Pro class. Drivers coming across the line. Checkered flag has waved for heat number 1. So we wait on Fritsch and Vivaqua to come across the start-finish line, finish their heats, and we get ready for heat number 2, and we'll see how many striking differences that we are going to see in between these heats. Will we see a lot of different racing, not too aggressive there in heat number 1, even though we saw our fair share of carnage get laid down? Starting grid coming up for heat number 2. It's Chris Shorter on the pole. Joe Vigard Gotterstad, another one of those pro licensed drivers, sits to the outside of row 1. Paul Lange, James Parker, Max Kessler rounding out your top 5, with Emil Vinbo, Thomas Wangen rounding out the pro class. Then Daniel Porter, Nikolay Polyakov, Adam Starzniski, Henning Stullinger, with Tom Bingham rounding out your top 12. Back from there all the way to P19, Gordon Oberman, Kevin Stringer, with Martin Spalik rounding out your top 15. Austin Neal, Matthew Carana, Nicola Forzalippi, and Dave Chadwick. Your 19 cars getting ready for heat number 2. Everybody on the grid, and a jump start from row 2. I believe that was Paul Lange. Yes, it was. And Lange isn't going to get a good start either. They're going to be 4 wide for a moment. Lange is going to fall many positions. He's outside of the cut line now as he drops all the way to P13 and more. Battle for the lead. Chris Shorter's going to hold on. Gotterstad is going to go for the crossover, and around goes the race leader. Around goes Chris Shorter for Impulse Racing. More cars getting involved. It's carnage in the first corner as everybody tries to get through. One more car turned around in the middle. That's Martin Spalik.
Yeah, as we said at the start, you have that one spin in that really awkward place as we saw there. You can't go anywhere in this track, and you just got to wait to the end, and you can go from first, as we saw there, literally all the way down to 16th place at the moment. But what is really interesting in this heat too, Joshua, is because heat 1 was heavily stacked with all the big guns, it's going to give really good opportunity to the guys that would normally be on the fringes. We see another spinner there coming around turn 5, so he's going to be in no man's land. Oh, a terrible inside movement. Unfortunately, picks up the 273 car there, and that was Nicola Forzalippi, unfortunately getting picked up by the 231 car there. So unfortunate. So Adam Selassie comes down. So here's what happened to Salter at the start of the race. A really good start off him. Got that inside line into turn 1. And I think you see there, he got a little bit squirrely out there and then put the power on too much, which unfortunately spun him round. And you can see there, all the cars at the moment, he'd done exactly the right thing though, and just kept the car stationary, let all the other cars. But in front of him, we had a big melee of cars as well, unfortunately hitting into each other. So about 3 or 4 cars there, effectively taken out of the race within the first corner of this heat number 2, as we see another spin here by Nicola Pearl, and Paul Lang seems to be in the wall. So a terrible start off the grid for the line, getting from 3rd place down to about 7th, and now he's had another terrible thing and it's down to 13th.
I believe it was a jump start. Not sure if that penalty was give the time back, or if he hasn't even done the penalty yet, if he needs to still come into the pit lane to serve that. We'll keep you updated as one car hits the pit lane. That's Austin Neal. Paul Lange did just hit the pit lane on this lap. Kevin Stringer, Adam Starzniski with Martin Spalik also all in the pit lane. So 15th on back to 19th is currently in the pits, and we still have 14 drivers on the track racing for the 8 spots. And with those incidents and all the pro drivers really getting shaken up, Chris Shorter falling down, Matthew Caruana as well gaining a couple of spots, and Paul Lange going out of the top 8. We now have 3 AM drivers sitting in the top 8. Oberman, Porter, and Stullinger trying to hold on now as we see the battle for 6th place. 2 AM drivers, Oberman and Porter battling. WS Racing Esports Blue in that number 287 trying to hold on to that 6th spot as they go through the chicane.
Yeah, definitely a really good opportunity, and it looks like, obviously our viewers might be thinking, well, Heat 1 was very much stacked with pros, and Heat 2 seems to be the AM. But the way that the grids and the heats are sorted out is odds and evens from where they finish in the qualifying. So it's just fortunate that, this second heat is heavily stacked with AMs, with a splattering of pros, where the Heat 1 was actually full of pros. So it gives a real good opportunity now for these amateur drivers, as we see currently 3 drivers, Oberman, Porter and Stuttgart, in 6th, 7th and 8th, with Poloskov just behind him in 9th place. Have all got a really good and strong opportunity to actually progress into the A final from straight away without going into the consolation round, which means that from this race or from this heat we could have a potential to have 3 amateur drivers progress through to the feature round. So we only normally see 1, so a real strong, real big opportunity for these amateur drivers.
and already putting just about 4 minutes behind us here in the heat. And what a wild opening lap that was. It has calmed down since then, but it has not calmed down for Henning Stollinger, who is currently battling for the transfer with Polyakov, who sits in P9, and right behind him as well. Only about 2/10 separating these two drivers, and only about a full Porsche length separating them as well. They'll race up the hill into turn number 4 to the inside, trying to make that move work. A little off track goes the 287, the 248 looking for a way by, and this battle has made the drivers behind him, Chris Shorter, Tom Bingham, have now caught up to this group. Or sorry, they've caught up to a group in front of him as Henning Stollinger and Nikolay Polyakov join this fight. So we might have multiple drivers now fighting for this cut line as Stollinger gets loose from P8, trying to stay in the slipstream of Daniel Porter. Gordon Oberman in front of him. There's Chris Shorter. He is also caught up. Front end damage doesn't matter for the Impulse Racing Pro driver. He is staying in this line. He has an opportunity to get back to the transfer spot after the turn 1 incident.
Yeah, definitely. He's got a good opportunity right on the back of trainer cars, all the way down from 6th, all the way down to 10th. We've got Oberman and Porter, Stuttlinger, Pollaz. He goes on the inside, and Chris Shorter takes out Stuttlinger in front of him. I think that was. No, it's Nikolai Popkolov. So he unfortunately puts out of the top 8 place, and unfortunately Shorter going in a little bit too hot there into turn number 13, and putting pay really to Polyakov his race, so he'll be probably going through and a bit angry in that car. But at the moment we've got Shorter in 9th place, Bingham in 10th, just on the cusp as well of the 8th. So you know, this 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th place is all still up for grabs, but I'm expecting, certainly at the moment, the way it's playing out in the heat, is that top 2 AMs at least will go through from this round into the feature round.
What an incident there, and Shorter's going to move up into P9, but if that incident was an accident, no doubt in my mind, Shorter's going to be a little bit more cautious as he tries to race for that transfer spot with Henning Stollinger, who currently holds it. Max Kessler trying to hold off Emil Vinbo for P3 right now as they race through, I believe, the lap machine in front of him. Yes, that is the lap machine. It's Austin Neal, 17th place. They'll go right on by Austin Neal. Blinking lights get put on for the 214 as the drivers on the lead lap will race their way past. Neal trying to hold on now to just any possible position he can. He's currently P17. A couple of seconds back is Martin Spalik, who's the only driver that he is racing on the racetrack for the moment. Back to this battle for P6. To the inside of Oberman goes Porter, and to the inside for the transfer, Chris Shorter gets on by Stollinger, and Shorter for Impulse Racing is back up into the transfer spots after the turn 1 incident, and Oberman able to hold off Porter for the moment as they go through the final corner.
Yeah, so I bet Shorter's quite happy in that car that he's managed to fight his way back up to the automatic places to the feature round, currently on the cusp in P18, but does have Porter and Oberman right in front of him, so I'd expect him to be pressurising quite hard, but at the moment at the front of the park. So we're just going to have a look here at the moment with James Parker and got Max Kessler. Oh, Wimbo and Kessler getting a bit involved there, coming down into turn 12. And managed to get the lap 2 lap cars that were in front of him past him. So a bit of an incident there coming down into turn 12. So not very good for the racing between them 2 cars who are currently fighting it out for 4th and 5th place.
Back up to this front battle, Max Kessler now caught up to James Parker. Oh, and it's a scrap back here for P6 as here comes Chris Shorter looking for more spots inside the top 8. He goes side by side, wheel to wheel with the 248 of Daniel Porter, and it'll put Porter down into the bubble spot of P8 now. question is, can Henning Stollinger catch up to Daniel Porter as the 248 gets put from P7 now back into that transfer spot of P8, but he's starting to catch up a little bit more as Shorter goes to the inside of Gordon Oberman. Shorter going to move up to P6, making it an entire pro class top 6, and now to the inside of Oberman goes Daniel Porter trying to take over P7. He will for the moment. Can he keep it off the corner? Yes, he will. Now it is two teammates at WS Racing Esports trying to battle for the transfer. Oberman versus Stollinger.
Yeah, great pass there from Shorter last couple of cars to take Porter and Oberman through two corners there. So just giving Oberman and Porter, giving him a little bit too much room, I thought, coming around them corners, giving him a little bit too much respect and giving him them inside lines to get him past. But they probably think that their battle is between themselves, between Porter, Oberman and Stollinger, to try and get that last two places onto the A final, as we currently watch still the botch battle. So the battle here now for Kessler getting up on the inside of Parker into turn number 3, coming around the fast. So he's got the inside line, but Parker's got that inside line coming out from the fast corner, so still manages to keep that 4th place. Nope, Kessler, sorry, manages to get that 3rd place off Parker. So Kessler getting that move done through turn number 3 and coming onto this back stage. So we got a real battle here for 4 between Kessler, Parker, and Wimbo.
Still taking a look at this battle for P3 on the racetrack, and really is only for starting position when it comes to the feature races. All of them are qualified into the feature based on the position they're currently in, so they need to keep it clean, because if they get crashed out, that is going to knock them out of the cut line and move everybody up one spot further behind. Is battle for the transfer, nothing really happening on it right now. 6/10, fluctuating to about 5/10, now about 4.5/10 for that transfer spot in P8, as we see Wimbo getting right around James Parker for P4. Parker falls one spot to P5, and we'll see if he can catch up. Carana and Tom Bingham swapping spots for P11. As around goes Carana, trying to move his way further up the field. He did not put in a time in qualifying. Interesting to see from the Luxim 24 Esports machine, as I believe we have taken that white flag. It is one more lap to go here from the Hungaroring. Gotterstad leading since pretty much turn 2. Lap number 1 is going around in turn 1 was the pole sitter Chris Shorter for Impulse Racing. He currently sits in P6 after climbing his way back up through the field after that incident. Jovigard Gotterstad trying to walk away with this Heat 2 victory and continuing the strong start to the season he has had. Not the best feature race finish that he was looking for when it came to Charlotte, but looking for a bit more success when it comes to the Hungaroring here tonight. Battle for the transfer is developing as they go through the corner. Lock up from Oberman. He goes way wide, and into the transfer spots goes Henning Stollinger. One mistake from Gordon Oberman leads Stollinger to go right on around and up and into the transfer positions for the feature. And Oberman is going to be wondering what if he didn't make that mistake when he goes racing in the Consolation. Now Stollinger can still make a mistake going through these last couple of corners. Not seeing it as likely as through the final 2 corners and into turn number 14 he goes. Jovigard Gotterstad is going to walk away with the heat number 2 victory from the virtual Hungaroring and start to the outside of the front row in the feature.
Yeah, that's a Fox Gaming 1-2 with Thomas Wang, his teammate, and his countryman who come over the line in 2nd place. Those two actually running away with the field as we see the battle there for 3rd. Kessler managing to win out over Wimbo, Parker and Shorter. But Stollinger, I think all his Christmas presents came at once there from Oberman, actually gifted him the 8th place, so that automatic bubble spot for the feature race. So we'll be seeing Stollinger, and we'll be seeing if Oberman can actually make it through to the Consolation. If he doesn't, I think he certainly will be kicking himself for making that probably silly mistake going into turn number 5, as we saw there. And yeah, it's gutting when that happens. I think when you're racing and you're on the last lap and you just gift it to someone in there. So we'll see what Gordon Oberman can do in the Consolation, but Hertling Stertlinger managing to get that 8th place and that vital 8th place for the automatic qualifying into the feature race.
And Oberman will be starting to the outside of the front row in that Consolation. Starting to the outside of the front row, it is your heat winner in the feature, Joe Vigard Gotterstad, and 1-2 for Fox Gaming, like you mentioned. 1-2 for Norway, as 2 Norwegian drivers finish at the front of the field here as we wait last couple of drivers to trickle across the start-finish line. Currently waiting on Adam Starzinski to come across the line, as well as, I believe, Austin Neal and Martin Spolak have already finished their races, so just waiting on Starzinski to come across the line. He does finish on the lead lap, albeit not by a ton of time. As across the line comes Starzinski, this will wrap up the second heat of the day, and we get ready to go racing in the Consolation race tonight. Officially, with the amount of drivers that signed up, we will take the top 6 from the feature race here tonight. Cesar Cabral for the pro class starts on the pole. Gordon Oberman to the outside. Mikey Pollard, Nikolay Polyakov with Darren Fell rounding out your top 5. Matthew Quarana with Ross Dunstan, Tom Bingham, Jesse Haliaho with Dave Chadwick rounding out your top 10. Craig Jones, Nicola Forza Lippi, your top 12. Back from there all the way through the 22 drivers taking the green flag. Dennis Meisner, Kevin Stringer, Aaron Smith, Adam Starzinski, Oliver Holtzke, Austin Neal, Marcel Fritsch, Martin Spolak, Thiago Vivacqua with Paul Lange. 22 drivers ready for the Consolation. They take to the grid. Everybody is on and ready to go. The lights come up and they will go out from the virtual Hungaroring. Consolation is underway. Looks like a bad start from row 3. One car gonna fall a spot, I believe. That is Jesse Kialaho with the bad start to the outside line. Diving into turn number 1, side by side. Cesar Cabral outside, Gordon Oberman inside. Can Cabral cover off the spot? He tries to, locking it up, and a spinner in the outside line. Multiple spinners as well. Looks like getting involved. Craig Jones gets spun around. Oliver Holtzke got spun around. Dennis Meisner as well, as everybody races into turn 2. Still side by side. Trying to grab a spot is Vivacqua. More contact. Spolak goes around with Stringer.
Yeah, definitely this Consolation as round as we saw in Charlotte can get actually very heated, and as we saw there, the first 2 corners that they've actually gone around, I think we've had about 4 or 5 spinners there and some big learn, and Lang's managed to make his way up, so currently he started in the rear position. He's actually made his way up now to P14, so great start for him after his absolute horrendous start in heat number 2 where he was 3rd. There's a big lunge there from Aaron Smith, very optimistic going into there, and not sure who he spun around there, but that was an extremely optimistic move going into that tight chicane. It was Adam Schnatsky that he hit into that corner, which will put pay to his race tonight almost certainly.
Ooh, getting a little bit loose on the exit of that corner, as well as Mikey Pollard trying to hold off the number 199 behind him, Matthew Quarana. Remember, we're taking the top 6, so right now transfer spot sits with Tom Bingham there for Performance Link Esports in P6. Side by side to the inside goes Quarana. Battle for 3rd as Mikey Pollard gonna have to surrender the spot. They'll stay side by side for the moment. A little bit of banging as one car goes around in the background. Dave Chadwick, the Canadian, the 217, gets spun around off 14.
Yeah, unfortunately no man's land again, and have to wait till all the cars go filter past him, so was going up into the spots to try and get into that bubble, but unfortunately he's managed to get himself down to 19th place at the moment. So a disaster there coming out of the last corner for Dave Chadwick with Performance Link Esports. I actually thought that was Tom Bingham that was currently sat in 6th place that had spun there, but he's still managing to keep it clean and keeping it in 6th place with Nippy in 7th with Vivacqua. So you've got a big gaggle of pro drive Vivacqua, Fish, Confell in 8th, 9th and 10th that are trying to fight back to try and get into that top 6th place. And as we saw in Charlotte, you know, Tom Bingham did an excellent job of holding off for the majority of the race until They had a slight incident with into one corner. He did an excellent job of holding them off as Nicola Force Lippy there managing to get offline and slowing down horrendously on turn 5, but managing to keep it.
And we look at Thiago Vivacqua, who he was fighting with there and forced him a little bit off track going through turn number 5. They get settled out and take a look at this side-by-side battle. Polyakov to the inside of Oberman, door slam, and sending him off track. The 240 of Nikolay Polyakov sending Oberman off track. Now to the inside of Polyakov goes the 173 of Mikey Pollard. Battle for P3 and a battle for P5 as well, as Bingham goes to the outside and a shunt. Off track goes Polyakov. Out of the cut line goes Polyakov. The 240 gets turned around in turn number 13. And the race continues to develop. Vivacqua now up into a transfer spot at P6 as Forza Lippi gonna go for that fight to get into the feature race, as it'll be a side-by-side battle for the race lead. Dive into one, the 199 going forward, and Quarana is gonna take the lead away from Cabral, but not for long. Here's the crossover as they go down the straightaway into turn number 2. Inside line, Cabral covers off the spot. Back to the outside goes Quarana, side-by-side, continuing to switch back here at the front of the field.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Grana obviously tried a deep lunge into turn number 1, but unfortunately lost all the speed on the exit, and Cabral managed to take that place back on the switchback, and a big battle between them two out in front. They got a little bit of a gap now over Pollard in third place, but I'm just trying to think if Oberman's done a stroke of genius letting his teammate through in Heat 2. Felt that he had the speed here to get through on the consolation round to give the place to his teammate. So if he has, that's very sporting of him, and nearly paid the price on the last lap of getting hit out wide round turn 11, and he could have been off them top 6 pace, but managing to keep it at the moment in P4, where we've got Tom Bingham in P5. So the top of the AMs at the moment, 2 AMs in the 6th place, automatic qualifying into the heat race. But there's a big battle here with Uberman, Bingham and Vivacqua right on the tail of Bingham, just trying to get up on the inside. So I think managing to get it done around this corner, so that puts Bingham down into the last bubble spot in 6th place, and he's got another AM. Oh, a big, huge! Wow, Nicola was a lippy. Coming from a mile back there, and unfortunately taking Tom out. Tom will not be happy in that car, going from the bubble place of 16th down to 13th. It'd be interesting to see what happened there.
What a corner from the turn 13. What happened with the 273? Did he get a shot? Did he miss a braking zone? What happened here? Oh, I think he just missed the braking zone severely. Contact made with the car in front, and the battle at the cut line continues to change. It's now Paul Lange who has that transfer, and we went from, I believe, 3 and 3 pro, 3 AM in the top 6 for the transfer spots into the feature. We are now down to 1 AM driver left, Gordon Oberman, and the closest AM driver being Nikolay Polyakov in P9. So the pros, showing their consistency, are back at the front of the field. 1 AM driver in the top 6 as we go less than halfway gone in this race in the Consolation. Remember, top 6 advance to the feature. We'll have a 22-car feature race. 8 drivers from Heat 1, 8 drivers from Heat 2 make 16. Add the 6 from the Consolation, and you get 22 going racing in tonight's feature race from the Hungaroring. Remember, we're going to go from 12 minutes up to 15 minutes as well in that feature race. So plenty of racing action left here tonight, as getting shoved off track goes Oberman. That is Vivacqua the inside. Then the inside quickly switched to outside through this left-hander. Taking back that spot is Oberman, still side by side. You're on board with Paul Lange. What is the 112 going to do? Contact and spinning middle of the track, and multiple cars involved. And Oberman is going to fall out of the transfer spots now as well. And Marcel Fritsch moves up into P6. Polyakov to P7, and more issues for the WS Racing Esports blue car as we go 3 wide into turn number 1 in the battle for P4. Outside line now going for the spot is Paul Lange. Marcel Fritsch inside. gonna have to surrender that spot. They're battling for P5 right now. That 240 of Polyakov currently looking for a transfer spot. He's gonna take it for P6. Still side by side for P7 as Hialau gets shoved over.
Hello, managed. Oh, a big incident there. No. So Viviquel managed to get really up into the places, and unfortunately gets a spin there from Viviquel in 8th place, who took an unorthodox line coming through that corner and managing to get 2 wheels off the ground, and unfortunately picking up Viviquel there, who made an exceptional lunge from the back of the grid to get himself up into that automatic qualifying place, and it's all gone in a blink of the eye. But you know, Paul Lang at the moment up 17 places. He started on the back row of this grid and has just managed to dive his way through the field and is currently sat in 5th place. So, you know, an exceptional round for himself. He probably thought he was going to be out of it starting there at the back of the grid, but has just managed to pick up places as going along. We have had a lot of incidents, as we come to expect, in this B-class final and the Consolation to get into that 6th place. So you're always going to have incidents in this type of race where, you know, the numbers are so small and the margins are so narrow to get into that P6, but he's done an exceptional job getting up into P5 at the moment, as the only currently who's on the bubble spot is Polyakov, who's currently in 6th place, who's lost 2 places out from where he started. So it'd be interesting to see if he can actually keep that, because he has got Fritsch on his tail trying to take that last place off him, as we currently watch the battle for 2nd place. So Cabrera just slightly going back at the moment and into the clutches of Mikey Pollard in 3rd place. So at the moment, Karuna has managed to skeet away out front, and he's got a lot of space, as we can see. You can just see him going around the corner there in front of these 2 drivers, so managing to scamper away. So there might have been an issue with Cabral as to why he's come back into the clutches of Mikey Pollard, but certainly the race at the moment on the track is for 2nd place between Cabral and Pollard.
This is the battle for P2, and coming across the line this time by for Matthew Quarana, who currently holds the lead. He will take the white flag. We'll have 1 more lap to go here in the Consolation. And Pollard all over the back bumper of Cabral right now, trying to find any way possible around. Polyakov still holds on to the transfer, as Pollard from that 3rd position looking for any possible way to get around Cesar Cabral, and this is where it gets really tough. We've seen a lot of moves be made down into turn 12. Will we see one here? No, we do not. Mikey Pollard is going to stay in that 3rd position. Does he see an opening to the inside in turn 13? He sees it. He opens it up. Can he get the power down and make the move happen? No, he cannot. He'll have to settle for P3 as Cabral goes by. The white flag is going to come out. 1 more lap to go here in the Consolation from the Hungaroring. Let's see if Pollard is going to be able to get around Cabral. He goes to the bottom. Will the move be made here in turn number 1? Pollard goes around, a slam into the back bumper, and shoving him through the corner is Cabral, but Pollard's going to keep the spot. When is Cabral going to try and get it back? He goes for the move in 2.
That was one way to hold up the driver behind you, just get in front of him and let you push you across around the turn number 1. So that's certainly a new move there that I haven't seen from Mikey Pollard, getting that move done on the inside line and literally closing off the door to Cabral. And Cabral could all Cabral will do is just basically push him around turn number 1, but he'll certainly have the bit between his teeth, as we're currently on board with Paul Lang, who's sat in 4th place, so managing to get up another place, and is all over the back of Cabral at the moment, and trying to make a lunge up the hairpin, getting the outside line, pushing Cabral offline on the inside, but he's going to be pushed out wide and he might spin it. No, he manages to keep it, so that was a lucky move, but losing out the place to Darren Fell, who manages to get back up to 4th place. So Lang pushing it as much as he can, and his car is heavily damaged on the front. So optimistic move, a great move there from Paul Lang, getting 4th place on Fell with a mix-up between Fell Lang and Cabral in front of him, giving him the opportunity to get up on the inside. So currently that Paul Lang in 4th place and Darren Farrell pushed down to 5th place. But all these cars at the moment, as we see, oh no, we see Cabral block it up on the second to the last corner and gifting the place to Paul Lang, who manages to get up a third. Oh no, Paul Lang going into the pits.
Did he miss that corner is what I am wondering. Is he going to fall out of the transfer spots? He is. He's going to fall down into P8. What on earth happened to Paul Lange at the end of this race? Loses a transfer spot, gives it to Dennis Meisner. 2 AM drivers are into the feature race, making it 4 total, as 5th and 6th go to AM drivers Polyakov and Meisner. What happened to Paul Lange? I think he might have just completely missed that corner there, Andy. Went into the pit lane because he was forced to go in. There's an entire wall in turn 14 and lost the transfer.
It's either that or basically he got the incident level and had to do a drive-through. So it'd be interesting to see on the final grid if he gets put further down. If he has, he obviously had a penalty that he needed to serve that he couldn't. But I'll tell you what is absolutely amazing is Dennis Meisner. It's the 2nd week in a row from race 1 that he's got through on the Consolation by an incident in the last corner of both rounds. So Dennis Meisner has got the look of the gods on his side. So the 2nd time in 2 weeks that he's managed to get through to the feature race off an incident in the last corner.
What luck for Dennis Meisner to get himself into the feature race off of the Constellation. Warm-up begins, a 3-minute warm-up as these drivers get ready for tonight's feature race, and a ton is coming up in this feature, and we're seeing a lot of interesting racing through the heats, and sure to see some more exciting ones in the feature. We'll take a short break here on Apex Racing TV, but do not go anywhere. It is feature time from the virtual Hungaroring. When we return, you're tuning into coverage of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship live on Apex Racing TV. Welcome back to the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship from virtual Hungaroring. You're tuning into live coverage on Apex Racing TV. Minute left in warm-up before we get ready to go racing in the feature race. Joshua Lee here with you in the booth alongside Andy Thompson. Samuli Kumo down in the virtual production trailer, pushing all the buttons and giving you all the camera shots here from virtual Hungary, and getting ready for this feature race. Andy, we came in with a lot of question marks. I think a lot of those question marks were answered, but definitely still a bit left as we go from 12 minutes up to 15. And just how aggressive is that going to make these drivers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we saw there, the Heat 1 and 2, everybody's still quite, has got their racing head on because they know that they can get into that top 8. But that Consolation round, the B final, you know, it's literally putting everything on the line. And as we saw there, quite a few drivers getting it terribly wrong. But obviously, what one of the things, good thing about these series is that each one of the drivers can put a protest in after the race that's looked at from one of the stewards. And obviously penalties can be given out to drivers if they have been reckless and found to have caused an incident. So there is retribution for over enthusiastic moves, I would call them at the moment. Obviously can't comment on them until the penalties are given out, but we did see quite a few incidents there in the Consolation B round. But certainly for this A-class final, I'm really looking forward to it. It's got some of the big hitters at the front of the field, and I'm going to expect a really good race in this A-class final.
Ready for the feature race. 4 AM drivers. The rest of the field, all 18, or sorry, 5 AM drivers. The rest of the field, all 17 pro drivers. Luke McCowan starts on the pole. Joe Vigard, Gotterstad, P2. Roger Christensen, Thomas Wangin, Bo Albert, your top 5. Albert, the feature race winner from 1 week ago at Charlotte. Max Kessler, Damian Harris, Emil Vinbo, Scott Mokes, and James Parker going to round out the top 10. Thiago Marceau going to be the top driver of the AM class there on the start. Chris Shorter to his outside. Then Lewis Ward, Daniel Porter, Erasustro Montes rounding out your top 15. Henning Stullinger, Matthew Corana, Mikey Pollard, Cesar Cabral, Darren Fell, Nikolay Polyakov, and Dennis Meisner. The 22 drivers ready for tonight's feature race. We go from 12 minutes to 15 as the revs come up. Let's go racing. It's feature time from virtual Hungary, and a slow start for both Fox Gaming drivers. That is going to be Christensen falling down the order, as well as his teammate Thomas Wangin. But out in front, it's another Fox Gaming driver, Joe Vigard Gotterstad, trying to get the lead away from Luke McGowan side by side. And around goes Joe Montes in first corner. He gets spun around, still side by side for the race lead, as Gotterstad tries to fight from the outside. McGowan on the inside, diving into turn 2. McGowan trying to hold on as Gotterstad tries to get the advantage on the outside line. Doesn't work. Luke McGowan is going to take the lead coming off of turn 3.
Great battle between the first and second. McCowan and Gotterstad keep it out. Oh, you have a big spinner there off the turn number 3 corner and stuck in no man's land at the back there. I wonder who that was. Obviously put his page out, which was Porter, one of the AM drivers, Daniel Porter, who's currently leading the AM championship, as we see Scott Mokes coming off around turn number 5. So, you know, just jostling for position on this outlap with cold tyres, you are going to be prone to making the mistakes that we're currently seeing on the stream at the moment. But Luke McCowan is leading this one. Joe Gotterstad, Björn Albert up 2 places, but the big losers were the Fox Gaming guys. Roger Christensen getting bogged down at the start there, losing 5 places, currently in 8th place. So not a great day at the office for the Fox Gaming, although you do have Joe Gotterstad of Fox Gaming currently in P2.
Ooh, and getting off track there. Outbreaking himself to 222, blends back into line, but that could have been very close. So he almost made contact with a couple drivers. Max Kessler is around in P13, or turn 13, and colliding in goes Marceau in the 222. Unfortunate for that driver as Kessler tries to rebind into the racetrack. He will. Out in front, what a start by Bo Albert, up 2 spots from where he started, going to the inside, or looks for it on Gotterstad, able to blend back into line for P3 as we get a draft train going on at the front. Harris, Vimbo, Shorter, Christensen, Parker, and Wangin all in this one as they race into turn 2. McGowan holds the lead for the moment. And you can see Bo Albert all over the back bumper. Fox Gaming versus Logitech G Altus Esports. Gotterstad versus Albert as they'll go up the hill. What can Albert do? He's trying to go back-to-back in feature races.
Yeah, he's basically, these two fighting now in second and first place is probably the most ideal time for Luke McCowan to try and scamper away in the front, because Gotterstad being very aware of Björn Albert in 3rd place all over the back of him, because Albert hasn't got anybody behind him, as we see Wimble trying to get up on the inside of the cutback here on Damian Harris in 4th place. So a bit of a battle all over the field in the little pockets, but certainly McCowan's best opportunity to try and get away with. Gotterstad heavily defending on Björn Albert.
On board with Vimbo for Carlos competition, getting a little bit close, maybe a little bit of contact to the back bumper of Damian Harris for P4. Vimbo fighting from P5, stays in line for the moment, and everybody staying in line at the front as Albert continues to try and catch up to Gotterstad. Gotterstad continues to try and catch up to Luke McGowan as Chris Shorter is going to join this fight for P4. Harris and Vimbo in front of him, and Roger Christensen, teammates of Gotterstad, trying to regain spots after a disastrous start at the front of the field at the beginning of the race, falling all the way down past P7 where he currently is now. Believe he ended up somewhere around P8. Thomas Wangin, his teammate, who also got a bad start for Fox Gaming, currently sits in P9. He lost 5 spots off of that start, but still out in front it is Luke McCowan, and not to give any sort of commentator's curse to the 122 at the front of the field, but in round number 1, the only round we have had this season, the driver who won heat number 1 also went on to win the feature race, and that happened to be Bo Albert last week. But even though it is only 1 week, technically that is still a streak of the heat 1 winner going on to win the feature. So if you're betting money on this race, Luke McCowan is a safe bet to make, Andy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he had a disastrous round at Charlotte, but we knew he was a fast driver, and he's in the ideal position now at the moment, sat at the front of the field. So it's down to him to make the mistakes, and if he keeps it nice and clean like he did in this heat and run away with the field, he could get it. He could get it done on this one, so it'd be a great recovery drive, obviously, off the back end of Charlotte, which must have been highly disappointing for him. But at the moment, Albert's just got off the back of Goddestad, so give Goddestad a little bit of breathing room to try and close down that gap now on Luke McCowan. So Luke's not actually getting away from the field at the moment, so they're all still bunched up in a little big long train. So one little mistake, one little spin, as we've seen previously, can take you from first place all the way down to the back of the field.
And there's Luke McCowan at the front of the field. This time by, we'll see what that lap time is. You can see the sector times coming in as well. Just a slight bit faster is Luke McCowan on that last total lap there. How long is Goddestad going to play in second? We know he wants to get that lead as quickly as he can. Diving into turn number 2 now, as they go through the corner and trying just to hold on to that second spot now as Goddestad, as Albert catches up, and Vimbo going to go right on around Chris Shorter and barely able to hold that spot off. Shorter's actually on the offense here, trying to get around Vimbo. Vimbo on defense as Christensen sits behind P7, trying to get around. Here comes Shorter with a dive to the inside. Not going to be able to get close enough. Moving to the outside line goes Vimbo. Shorter sees still an opening there. Closing off that spot is the Kairos Competition 123 to be right on board with Christensen.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be an incident there between Vimbo and Shorter. Shorter getting up the inside of turn number 5, but I think Vimbo saw that coming and managing to just give him that room and get the move done, going around the outside and keeping it into the switch back of turn 5, turn 6 and 7. So at the moment we've got Vimbo in 5th, Shorter, and currently rolling on board with Christensen, who's trying to make a bit of a recovery after an absolute terrible start where he got bogged down with his teammate behind him. So it's certainly not a Fox Gaming off the line start there across the board for the team at the moment. So currently we've got Vimbo at the front of this in 5th place, Shorter in 6th, it's all over the back of him, and Christensen on 7th, trying to get his recovery. Still 4 places down from where he started, but we know he's an extremely quick driver, so these drivers in front of him need to be aware, because if they give him a sniff, he will take that opportunity gladly.
So, oh my, way off track goes Vimbo, completely misses the corner. He'll fall to P7, give one more spot over to Roger Christensen for Fox Gaming. He moves back up into P6. Chris Shorter moves up into P5 as Polyakov trying to hold off Darren Fell. Couple of few battles throughout this field, and used to seeing that with these Porsches, especially here in the feature. We see a bit of a draft train happening up front, but through the mid-pack, everybody spread out, and you can see, wow, a 4-car train here. That is Jomontas, Mokes, Ward, and Corana going battling through the middle portion of this racetrack, and Jomontas holds that front spot, and Scott Mokes going to look to the inside. Jomontas might have gotten a little bit too far out of the groove. Mokes trying to get back there, and now with their crossover, Lewis Ward for Team 11 diving up the inside of Mokes, trying to take that spot side by side through the chicane. They keep it clean. Maybe a little bit of contact there as they go into the left-hander. Ward trying to hold him off, and he will put Team 11 up into P12.
Yeah, great move there, but what they've done now is they've let Jomontas get a little bit away in front now, so where they were all in a big long train with that battle with Ward, he's managed to let Jomontas scamper off a little bit, so a little bit of a gap open now between Jomontas and Ward, but an exceptional move there between Ward moats as they went through. As we watch at the front here, Buell Albert all over the back of Goddestad at the moment. You know, the ideal opportunity now down into turn 1 to try and take that. We'll have the slipstream effect coming down here, but as we see Goddestad trying to cover that inside line, but not able to get it done, and Albert will take second place here. But what we've got to watch is a switchback from Goddestad to try and get that position back to have a better line. Doesn't quite manage to do so. Buell Albert managing to keep that inside line off Goddestad, and Goddestad's going to have to yield the place at the moment and move down into third place. So Albert moved up to second place, and Lucuon has managed to scamper away a little bit from these two battling it behind in second and third. So the slipstream effect that Albert would have had has now been gone. So it's all for Albert to do under normal racing conditions to try and get back up to Luke McCarran, but he's still got John Goddestad there in third place. He's got to be aware of. So it's going to be a very hard day, I think, at the office for Buell Albert at the moment.
Let's see if he'll be able to catch up to his Logitech Esports teammate Luke McCowan, who currently holds that top spot. And Luke McCowan, after some bad luck last week, looking at the final results, did not finish within the top 10 of the feature, and he finished P21 after incidents early on in that feature. So looking at a much better race here, and really needs it, because coming into tonight, mentioning top 10, he's on the top 10 of the overall point standings, and checking the pro point standings, he is not in the top 10 of those either. So a win here at the virtual Hungaroring is really going to make that confidence a little bit better for the Logitech GLC Sports number 122 outfit, and is going to lead to some better results, I think, from Luke McCowan. Is Albert trying to catch up, still about 3/10 off of his teammate at the front of this field, and Goddestad about a second now off of the race leaders. They race through 1.
Yeah, so Luke McCowan's obviously putting his foot down now. We are currently only 4 minutes left of this feature race. Where's the time gone? It's just action-packed at the moment. But obviously, just looking back at our AMs, we've got Polosco in 10th place at the moment, top of the AMs. And then we've only got one returning AM driver from the first round, Daniel Porter, currently in 18th place. So, you know, he will be extending his lead in the Amateur Championship, managing to get into the A-Class final for a second week running. It does Daniel Porter in 18th place. So currently third in the AMs as Stuttlinger just in front of him. So if he can try and take that position place, that's more points for Daniel Porter and will extend his amateur lead in the championship. But Dennis Meisler this week doing a better job. I think in the first couple of laps of Charlotte, he was actually out of the race, so managing to keep it together in this race. Still a little bit of damage on that car as we see, but currently running round in 19th place with Pollard 20th. Kessler, who as we saw had a terrible turn round turn 13, they got missed up there on that corner. I think there was 2 incidents in that same corner for Kessler, which made his position down to 21st. And we got Martinu, the other amateur that's currently out of this championship. So great running on the amateur sides at the moment.
On board, Matthew Carana, P13, trying to fight with Lewis Ward. And Ward, one of the drivers who is a bit of a veteran of this series. We've seen him in the last couple of seasons, and almost making contact with Ward was Carana. Also trying to get around Jomontis' Ward, so 3-car battle here is very loose off of turn 14. Sliding off the final corner goes Carana, able to hold on to that Porsche 992. Is diving into 1. Scott Mopes here on board with him now, trying to get around Carana. So this is the tail end of this 4-car fight right here for P11 on the racetrack. They'll race into 2, any moves being made. You're back on board with Carana for Luxim 24 Esports. Doesn't look like he'll be able to get around that driver in front of him, as it is official this time by. White flag will be out for Luke McCowan at the front of the field. Still watching this battle for P11 as they go into turn 5. No moves being made yet, but so close to each other, about maybe quarter car lengths. Separation is about inches as they go into the chicane. Side by side now for P11.
Yeah, Germanta's doing an exceptional job at the moment trying to hold up Lewis Ward, currently in P12. So this is a battle for P11 that we've been watching for half a lap now, and Lewis Ward is right on the tail of him, of Germanta. So Germanta's doing everything he can to hold up Lewis Ward. And as we can see on the front of Germanta's car, heavily damaged there, so doing a very good job to keeping these drivers who are lining up behind him to try and take the position. So this is obviously Germanta's first round in the Porsche Car Cup, because he missed the first round and joined in the second. As we look at the white flag here, as Luke McCowan is stretched out and even bigger now over Bu Albert. So I think it's almost done, as long as Luke McCowan can keep it on the road in a straight line.
This 4-car fight for P11 comes off of the final corner to the front straightaway. How is this going to end as Ward looks to the outside? Oh my, the crossover move, trying to come out from Corona. Can he at least get one spot on Ward? It's a wall in front of him, not going to be able to do it. Almost forcing Ward off track is there just Joe Montes, who has joined this fight. It looks like James Parker's also in it, as they continue now to weave in and out of each other. Everybody trying to defend any position they have and be on the offense at the same time. As trying to make a look to the inside goes Corona. Can't do it. Scott Monk's now going to look to the outside coming into this corner. It's a left-hander. As he tries to get around Ward, he's going to be able to clear him before they even commit to the corner. Ward falls to P14, but Monk's up to P13. Joe Montes now leads this line. Lewis Ward has pressure now from James Parker in P15. Side by side for 11. Not able to get there is Matthew Corona. Joe Montes gonna hold on. Dive into the bottom. Joe Montes with the defense. Here comes Mokes down to the inside. Looking for the spot on Matthew Corona. P12 on the racetrack. Through the final corners here in Sector 2. They'll go into Sector 3. How is this going to end as they go through turn 12, 13, and 14? Three of the highest passing opportunities we have on this track. But across the line, first win of the season, Heat 1 win, and a feature race win for Luke McCowan. Logitech G Altus Esports, double wins this season, and a 1-2 from Hungary.
Definitely, as we go back to this battle here for 11, Germanta's trying everything he can as Corona goes on the inside, trying to get it onto the last corner, but Germanta's managed to cover it off. So Germanta's an excellent display of defensive nature there, holding up literally 5 cars behind him, and the biggest loser out of that battle was Ward, currently behind Germanta's, and over the space of 2 corners, lost 3 places. So Lewis Ward, you know, having a terrible time, and that's the problem with this when you're so close driving, getting behind a defensive driver. If you go offline, mess it up slightly, then you could lose, as we saw there, lose 3 places in the last couple of laps. So he went from P12 down to P15, which is a decent amount of points lost for a couple of mistakes trying to get past Germanta's, but Germanta's done an excellent job there, holding up the field and managing to secure that 11th place. But, you know, out in front, Luke McCowan drove an imperious race, led from start to finish. Didn't really come under that much pressure. Had a little bit of pressure with Jover Goddestad at the start of the race, but then Goddestad got mixed up with Buell Albert, which obviously gave Luke McCowan the emphasis to get away, and ever since he did, he managed to keep that lead and just extend it.
What a day for Luke McCowan. He also qualified on the pole for his heat race as well, so perfect hat trick, pole, heat win, and feature race win. And 1-2 for Logitech G Altus Esports. The teammates go side by side, and G Altus Esports also now leading the team championship as they are undefeated when it comes to Heat 1 and the feature race here in the Apex Racing League Porsche Cup Championship. What a day for Luke McCowan in the 122 to walk away with this feature race win. As we see the Logitech G Altus Esports cars and Fox Gaming cars go side by side, we take a look at your full feature race results. It's Luke McCowan and Bo Albert at the front of the field for Logitech G Altus Esports. Joe Vigard Goddardstad P3 with Damian Harris P4. Chris Shorter rounds out your top 5. Roger Christensen, Emil Vimbo, Thomas Wangen, Darren Fell, and the best of the rest when it comes to the AM class, Nikolay Polyakov finishing P10. Erajus Joe Montes P11, Matthew Corona P12, Scott Mokes P13, James Parker P14 with Lewis Ward rounding out your top 15. Cesar Cabral, Daniel Porter, Henning Stullinger, Mikey Pollard, Max Kessler your top 20. Dennis Meisner, Kio Tiago Marceau rounding out your field, and unfortunately did not start that feature race. So this moves us into the post race, and Andy, just what a race we saw from the Hungaroring. It was a bit of carnage towards the middle portion of, towards the beginning of the heats and the Consolation, the feature, but all in all, some great battles up and down the field.
Yeah, definitely. You know, considering it's a brand new track, only been out on iRacing about 2-3 weeks now, you know, we've been put to a good show tonight for the majority of the drivers. There've been a few that made overzealous moves, and I'm sure that they will be protested after the race. But on the whole, I think the races have been exceptional. Seen some really good races and some really good recovery drives to get back up into them places to get into the A-class final, and an exceptional A-class final that we were just witnessed around the Hungaroring. So we've got to put it to the drivers, a brand new track in a brand new car, and obviously making it a real good spectacle.
And just great to see the battles up and down the field. We saw a barn burner of a battle there for P11 on the track, and winning that battle was Erajus Joe Montes, and a great run from them. We'll grab a quick interview with Kairos Competitions Emil Vimbo. He'll be standing by with Andy Thompson here in the post-race.
Hi Emil, welcome to the commentary booth. So obviously a P3 in the final race there. How did it go for you, mate?
I didn't finish P3. I finished P4 and P7, I think.
P7, yeah, or you did.
Yeah,
sorry.
but yeah, I didn't have the pace, I think, to challenge for. If I made one mistake, if I didn't make that mistake, I think I could have had P5 in the feature. But ultimately, I was a few tenths a lap slower than the two cars that were behind me when I was P5. So made one mistake, they got by, and I didn't really have a chance to catch back up.
Yeah, definitely some quick drivers in this World Championship. Do you find that if you have a bad start, it's exceptionally hard to try and get back up through the field with the strength of field that we have in this championship?
I think, yeah, it depends on how bad the start is. Because if you just overload, or if you get a lot of wheel spin on the start, you just nuke your rear tires instantly, and you'll have a slight pace disadvantage the entire race, and that obviously makes it harder to come back. And then, from my experience, the draft isn't super strong either, so there are definitely other cars where it's easier to overtake.
Yeah, we were seeing when cars were going down that start-finish straight, and the cars that were literally just nose to tail of each other, and they really couldn't see any effect from that slipstream in this car. Is that down to anything, do you think, or is it just the aerodynamics of this car? They pretty much neutralize themselves.
I'm not too sure. Some cars in iRacing have very strong drafts. I think the Porsche Cup isn't super strong, but you can get it from quite far back. It's like 1.3 seconds maybe, something like that. So you can obviously get close with the draft, but then actually using the draft to overtake can be a bit tricky depending on how long the straight is.
Yeah, so obviously last out in Charlotte, we saw you in the Consolation round unfortunately lose it on the last chicane and not getting through to the feature round. So tonight must be a lot better, obviously getting into the feature round and getting that P7 position up one place from where you started on the grid.
Yeah, it was one up from Charlotte, considering that I'm no fan of Charlotte. I was kind of expecting it. But I also had suboptimal practice because I was doing schoolwork for many hours before the race. So
great.
I would have liked to practice more, but I'll take the result given the preparation.
Yeah, I think that's everyone would like to practice more, I think. So we've got the Nürburgring Strict Life next round. How are you looking forward to that one? Are you familiar with that track?
I'm familiar with the track, yes. But for some reason, I'm slow. I don't know why. I just seem to lack pace versus some of the fastest guys there. So if I can keep it on track, then a good result is probably possible. Depends on how many others die and stuff. But yeah, it's a fun track nonetheless, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, obviously two rounds down in this Porsche Championship. How are you enjoying it so far?
I'm enjoying it. I think I'm at a point in the grid where it's not like I'm fighting for good points if I'm doing well, but it's not too easy, so definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for joining us in the commentary box. That's Emil Wimbo there at Karas Competition Sport, managing to get P7, obviously correcting me. Unfortunately, you probably much prefer where I said in P3, but obviously getting in P7. Before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, everyone at Apex Racing TV and Apex Racing League for making these leagues and broadcasts happen. It's a lot of fun, both to watch and participate, and then everyone at Kairos for their continued support.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. That was Emil Wimbo there, getting P7th in the feature race. So, Joshua, it looks like we've got one more person heading Stuttgart for an interview. So, one of the AM drivers in the feature race.
Yeah, finished P18 there in the feature. Henning, definitely was not the race that you were looking for. What were the struggles on the racetrack for your WS Racing Esports red outfit today?
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, it was a tough week this week. New track, new car, but I'm very happy with P3 and AM. That's my goal, to be at the front at AM, and yeah, I struggled a little bit with the brakes, over braking a little bit the car, but yeah, we try at the Nürburgring to get it a little bit better, but yeah, let's see.
That is a great point. P3 in the AM class, but 18th overall. So you're still picking up some good points for that AM class championship. And you came in 8th place in the AM class championship coming into tonight, and a 3rd place in that AM class, even though it is with overall points. Those point standings are overall finish ranked, but with most of your AM class drivers either not making it into the feature or not finishing that well into the feature, you finishing about mid-pack when it comes to the AM. Is this giving you more confidence going through the rest of the championship that you could be one of the front runners come into the later rounds?
Yeah, definitely. I was a little bit, yeah, not amused about Charlotte at my result, but this week went way better, and yeah, at the home crowd, for me as a German guy, we hope to be yeah, at P3 or better, hopefully.
And moving on in the calendar, we are going to advance over into virtual Nürburgring, and fan favorite definitely seems to be a driver favorite. Do you think you can walk away with a win from just such a unique and such a great racing circuit?
Yeah, I love the Nürburgring. I was often there, and yeah, hopefully we can pick up some good points. Also, I want to thank my team, especially Lucas. He did a little boot camp this week, also last week. And yeah, it helped me very much to get there where I now am, and yeah, hopefully we can go further in the calendar and in the rankings.
Well, thank you very much for joining us post-race, Henning. Congratulations on your 18th overall, P3 in the AM class here from virtual and Hungaroring.
Thanks, guys.
Great to hear from Henning Stullinger, your P18 overall, P3 AM class finisher here from the virtual Hungaroring. And that is going to do it for our broadcast here on Apex Racing TV of the second round of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. Remember to join us for round number 3 from the virtual Nürburgring, 1 week's time, Friday, October 1st, 2021. And make sure to tune in, same time, same place, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. GMT on Apex Racing TV. Make sure you subscribe here on Apex Racing TV as well, and click that notification bell so you get notified every time we go live for another broadcast. For Sabuli Kumo down in the virtual production trailer, for Andy Thompson joining me in the broadcast booth, my name is Joshua Lee. Thank you so much for joining us for round number 2 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. We'll see you in 1 week's time for round 3 from the virtual Nürburgring.